The CBS News legal analyst Jack Ford is with us. Welcome.
Good morning, Charlie.
So what's your assessment of this, your reaction to this?
Not surprised at all, at least at this juncture, because, look, everybody knows what happened. The real question is what's going on in his mind? What's causing all of this to happen? You know, the criminal justice system takes a look at what your intent is at the time. So I think it's not surprising that everybody's saying, wait a minute, let's slow down a little bit, because clearly he's having problems even assisting his own defense. And as a consequence of that, and it's not terribly unusual for a court to say, let's get an analysis done here to see if we can move forward.
Is it as simple as saying you're incompetent to stand trial if you were not responsible for your actions?
Two separate questions. That's a good question, because right now we're at the threshold, and the threshold is simply, can we move forward with this case? And in order to move forward, it's a lower standard. You have to show that you understand the nature of the charges against you, and you're capable of assisting. The bigger question down the road is, are you criminally responsible for the conduct inside the plane at that point in time? That's an insanity type of defense, where you've got to prove then that you didn't understand the nature and consequences of what you were doing, or if you did understand them, you still didn't have the ability to understand that it was wrong.
Right.
So those are the things moving forward. Right. One thing we haven't talked as much about is the impact, too, because we're waiting on so many things from that angle, but the impact on the airline. Is there anything legally that do any of those passengers have any sort of claim against JetBlue? Is that something they're concerned about?
Well, I'm sure the airline is concerned about. First thing they want to do is they want to get this resolved, because they want to make it clear in their minds. They want to show that this was just an episode that nobody could have anticipated. You know, it was sort of an explosive episode that no one saw coming, because that would help them in terms of any liability claims against them.
We were talking briefly before we went on the air, the three of us, about, as we're trying to figure out, as doctors are trying to figure out what actually happened and what's going on inside, it's either likely something medical or something involving mental health. But they need to know that, too, before they can let Clayton Osbon free. You
have to understand, from the prosecutor's position, they're looking at what happened here, and they're looking at his background, and I'm sure that they're saying, odds are this was a mental health issue rather than a criminal issue, but they can't just let him go. You know, they have to keep a hook into him, essentially, until there's some determination of what caused this and whether he's under control or not. And
because you mentioned there's some concern about if he's not, a threat to a community.
Exactly.
Charges aside.
And although everybody's looking at this, and my guess is if you asked 100 people, probably 99 of them said this has to have been a consequence of either medical problems or mental health issues. Prosecutor still has to be sure of that before they go forward. And what's unusual here is that the prosecution has joined in with this and said, we want to find out if we should move forward.
Is that unusual?
It is. Usually it's the defense that makes that, and sometimes the prosecution might object to it, but here they're working together. And the prosecutor said, look, let's get this decided before we go any farther.
Thank you, Jack. Great to see you.
Eric.